G'day. Well, I just thought while we're out here at beautiful Cape Palmerston, I'll just do a bit of a video running down and going over the campsite and vehicle. A few of you have asked for that, so I guess this is that video. I'll just firstly talk about the vehicle and then we'll just go over the campsite. I've already run over the tent in a previous video, but we'll just basically everything outside the tent, a typical camp setup. So yeah, this is it. For those of you who don't already know, this is a 2003 Hilux. It's got a little bit of modifications, but overall it's pretty much stock. So I'll just run through everything about the vehicle first, or everything that kind of is significant. So as I said, it's a 2003 and it's a V6 petrol. I didn't go for the diesel, went the petrol a few years ago when I was looking. Basically did the math, and the way the diesel was priced versus the petrol and the mileage you get kind of worked out pretty even anyway, except the price of the petrol was much cheaper than the diesel, so that's why I went for the petrol. As you can probably see, I've just got the X-Rocks bull bar. It's a steel bull bar, so that's a little bit better than the stock. Like, I think they come out with an aluminium bull bar from stock, a TJM number, but anyway, that came to a bit of an end about 12 months ago actually. And yeah, basically got this one instead, so I can take a bit more of a hit, but I'm not too sure how much of a hit these things can actually take, but they look pretty good, and as I said, it's steel, so it's going to be better than aluminium anyway. Inside the bull bar we've got a King's winch. If you've been watching the videos, you already know that. I've already stated that it's King's winch. They're really inexpensive, and yeah, they do the trick. So on top of that, there's a this is the control box for it. For this particular King's winch, you can plug it in, or you have a remote control as well, so that's pretty handy. So the only other modifications on the front end are obviously the lights. So again, these are just Super Center lights, the cheap stuff. I've never really, before this vehicle, I've never really been into the whole overlanding and camping thing like we tend to be doing. So it's probably kind of a learning curve, I guess, and without forking out thousands of dollars for lights, just gone with the cheap stuff. So I've got two 9-inch LED spotties. They do a great job. They, yeah, plenty enough for what we do. We don't really go night driving too often, but when we have, these things, as well as the light on top, which is I think a 42-inch light bar, that kind of gives a nice spread over the bonnet, and it will light up all those shadows behind rocks and stuff. And these on the side will actually span out and give you a bit of a flood off the sides, so they're pretty good. They kind of give you a bit of a spread of light kind of out on this direction, but also they get up and over the top of any sort of obstacle that you can't illuminate behind from the lights at the front. This thing will light up behind it and you can see what you're doing and see what you can drop into and such things like that. So just in regard to that roof light, one of the big problems with roof lights is the glare and reflection you get. So I've moved that back just enough so you don't get too much on the windscreen, if any. There's only like the tiniest bits in the top corners. But one thing I have done is painted the bonnet matte black. I used to have just a vinyl wrap on it. The vinyl wrap doesn't really last too well here in Queensland. Basically one summer later and it was totaled. So I've just recently peeled that all off and cleaned it up, and just basically painted this middle section matte black. So when you have that roof light on, in the odd times that we do, you're not getting the mad reflection off the bonnet back in your eyes while you're trying to drive and navigate courses. So that's a good idea if you've got a roof light. Also, being a petrol, a snorkel's pretty important. A lot of people will bag out the petrols and say, they can't be submerged in water and all that sort of stuff. We've been up Cape York. We haven't had like the vehicle totally drowned or anything, but it's a good idea to have a snorkel on them anyway. It's done all the water crossings and everything up there. It's done a few others in its time since putting this on, and yeah, airbox has been dry completely every time I've checked it. So snorkel's a pretty good thing. This is really inexpensive again. It's just an eBay special, and I think it was about $150. Fit it yourself, save heaps of money. Pretty easy. Comes with a full kit and instructions on how to do it. So yeah, just shop around when you're looking for snorkels, because they're really one of those things that shouldn't really cost you too much. And those of you might notice I got a new Ariel after the one broke at Cape York. So this one's actually been fitted with a spring, so hopefully she won't break and fall off while we're going down corrugations or tough tracks or anything. So that's pretty good, pretty decent, and plenty whippy. So yeah, one of the other things I've done is I've got some mud terrain tyres on it. These are just the cheap end of the market. They're Conforsa CF3000s, and yeah, for those of you who don't know, they are the cheap shit in tyres. But in saying that, this is the second set I've had on this car. I don't really have anything else to compare it to except for some Yokohama all-terrains, which are relatively aggressive for an all-terrain. But yeah, I had a couple of punctures in them. So far I've had a puncture in one of these and that's it, and they just give so much more grip, and yeah, it puts just a bit more confidence to you when you're on the tracks and you get those tyre pressures down. You've got real nice knobby bits on it, and yeah, they tend to do pretty good. And at only about $180 a tyre, I reckon that's pretty good value. But one thing I'll say, I also switched, I got rid of the mag wheels from early days, and I've got these steel rims. So the steel rims are pretty important, I reckon, when you're off-road. You've probably seen in a multitude of videos before that the steel rims, if you hit a rock or something on an alloy rim, you've got the risk of actually breaking the rim. With these ones, you might bend it a little bit, but a bit of loving with a mallet, you'll put it back into place and it should hold pressure. So yeah, steel rims and mud tyres, I reckon, are the go. Another important thing I reckon for a four-wheel drive, although I don't use this too often, is a side awning. This is just a 2 metre by, it comes out 3 metre, and it's the old Tigers 11, which is the old Super Centre stuff, thanks to Tony. Had it lying around in his garage and no longer used it, so he gave it to me. That's been really good. I've had this on there about probably at least 2 years at least, probably more than that. And it just recently didn't bite the dust, but I need a new one basically. So looking at a Super Peg one, but anyway, that aside, these side awnings are really good. Day trip, whatever, out to the beach, you've got cover, and relatively inexpensive. So yeah, recommend one of them. And one other thing is with these, they come with mounting brackets usually, and all the stuff you need. But I found that I had a couple break, and if you go to Bunnings, you can actually buy some nice L brackets, which are thick steel, and that's what I've done here. And yeah, a lot stronger. So yeah, side awning is a good modification to have, or a good accessory to have on your vehicle. This is one modification I've done before we went to Cape York. You obviously need recovery tracks. We've just bought the treads. They were on special at the time, so we went for them. How good they are, how not good they are is up for debate anyway. But anyway, we went with them. And I just thought that was a really convenient place to mount them. It's somewhere where you don't really think to put anything, and it's kind of a bit of wasted space. You don't see a lot of like wagons and stuff. They've got the swing out arms, and they've got like spare tyres and jerrys and everything on it. So I just thought whacking them there, it's easily accessible when you're on the tracks. It's pretty much a place where you wouldn't put anything else, especially on a ute like this. So yeah, just got a mounting kit from eBay, again on the cheap side of things, and has worked well. Has done Cape York. They haven't fallen off. They haven't even looked like falling off, and yeah, I reckon that's a pretty good spot for them. Anyway, inside the vehicle, there's not really too much to write home about. Obviously, I've got like just an old 40 channel UHF and that's pretty much about it. One thing I will say, those of you who drive these Hiluxes, they'll know that the seats aren't too comfortable. So after a bit of research, I found that WRX seats are roughly the same width, and if you just grind off the old seat mounts and mount them to these seats, that's a really good upgrade for your vehicle, of this model anyway. And yeah, they fit in nice and they give you a lot more comfort, and they actually bring the ride height down a little bit more, especially for someone like myself who's 6'4", and with the old seats my head was nearly touching the roof. So these have been a good addition and made the drives a lot more comfortable, especially on the tracks. So in my little toolbox here, I've got my deep cycle batteries and a bunch of spares, things like solar panel, some tools, axe, etc, and that's basically everything that's in here. This is basically all of the 12 volt system that I'm running. We don't really run too much aside from the fridge and a few lights. So yeah, as I said, I've got 200 amp hour deep cycle batteries in here. Just on a battery isolator, it charges from the engine when the engine's running, and there's just like a bunch of stuff on here. You can see like where your batteries are at, and you've also got a couple of terminals on here to basically, like, that's how I hook my solar up at the moment, but I probably should fix that up, but just haven't got around to it. A couple of USB ports for charging stuff like your phones, etc. and also fitted a couple of lights with just some external switches here. So I've got some lights under here, some orange lights to light up the back of the tray at night time, and also just got this one off the back here. When you come into camp at night and you need to set up, rather than put the front ones on, which is too much, just whack this one on and that illuminates your area to set up camp at night. So that's pretty good. Alright, so one of the other things I've done also, I've bolted to my toolbox here, is just a couple of jerrycan holders. So we'll usually carry, like on a weekend, it's a bit overkill because we never usually go through it, but we carry 40 litres of water, but sometimes we'll just carry the 20 litres of water and a 20 litre jerrycan depending on where we're going. But that was really inexpensive, just off Gumtree. A guy was selling it off his camper trailer and just bolted it to that. We've done this prior to Cape York, and it's been a pretty good modification. I think the only thing I would do in the future is if you put these permanently in there, you could perhaps put like a T-piece in the middle and join them and just have a tap at the back of the vehicle or something, so it just like gravity feeds back, rather than have to, you know, reef them out all the time. But it's not too hard, so it's not really a thing. The other thing is this roof rack. So this is the standard roll bars for like an SR5 Hilux. This is just the rear bar, and all I've done is I got a fabricator mate, just basically to weld up some more tube to join the front and the back, and then just put a sheet of checker plate on top, and then that becomes like a platform to sit on, stand on, sleep on, if that's what you want to do. But yeah, just basically gives you more room to put the tent up on there, and our stretchers and basically camp stuff. So yeah, it gives you a lot more room in the back. But at the same time, we don't carry a lot of gear, so we're not that heavy. But that's been a pretty good addition, and it keeps your fridge in the shade, which is a really good thing. So and protects it a little bit from weather. I had thought about getting some side curtains on it, but at the time no one really wanted to do it. And when we went to Cape York, it actually wasn't too bad with the dust in the back. Yes, things got dusty, but they got as dusty as the guys running canopies. So after that, I don't really care about the curtains. The only thing without the curtains, your stuff's going to get wet, but everything in the back here can get wet, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, so another modification for those of you who've bought a vehicle that's got a decent tow rig or tow assembly attached to it. We don't tow anything at this stage, and probably won't for a long time. But anyway, I've taken the tow ball off and basically put in one of these recovery hitches. That's a pretty good idea. We've got recovery hitches at recovery points at the front, both on the bull bar and underneath on the chassis, and this is just a good option at the back. It's really inexpensive. It's only about $40, and you can get pulled out backwards, no problems at all, without any real modification except take your tow ball out and put one of these in there. So that's a really good thing to do. So one of the best modifications I've done in recent times, or before Cape York trip, was put a fridge slide in. So just bought, again, Super Center fridge slide, really inexpensive, and just bolted it straight to the tray, and you can just slide your fridge out, and it's pretty easy to access, and that's just been so good because it just makes it, you just pull it out, it's easy, it's right there. So I've had this King's fridge now for about, I think it's just been just over 2 years. As I said, it's, well, you've seen the videos, it's done every single trip in the last couple of years, and Cape York as well. It did have a moment at Cape York, not sure what that was about, but it seemed to have fixed itself and hasn't failed since. And they're an old Waco model, so that's the deal apparently Super Center have with Waco, is they can't release the current version of Waco, so it's the previous model. But yeah, this is a 60 litre I think, or 65, I think it's 60. But yeah, as I said, a couple of years down the track, all the corrugations, all the tracks, all the dust, as you can probably tell, there's still dust all over it. Hasn't really skipped a beat, and yeah, just a pretty good all-round fridge, I reckon, despite, you know, the money and the shit they cop for, you know, people spending less money on your fridges and get what you pay for, all that kind of thing. Hasn't failed, but the cover has, to a point. But anyway, still going. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is water jerrys. So we used to just go around with the cheap Kmart or Bunnings water carriers, and since purchasing the jerrycan holder, and mounting that to the vehicle, we were then on the lookout for a good water jerry. What we found with the water jerrys is they all had their taps in really inconvenient places, and places which stuck out past like the body of the jerry can, and you could damage it and whatnot. So with the help from our mate Tony with TJM Discounts, we got our hands on these front runner jerry cans, and they're really good because some genius has already thought about putting the tap in a recessed section, and basically that can't get knocked off. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, is the best water jerry I reckon that's on the market. And again, really inexpensive, probably about, oh actually they're probably more than your normal jerry. I think I've seen jerrys in BCF and super cheap in that for about $20-$30. These are retail probably about $80-$90 I think. But anyway, South African company, I'm pretty sure front runner are. But that's just a genius idea. My only criticism is these taps. So this particular tap is off, is just from your BCF. It's just a generic tap. The ones that came with it just leak. So that was the only problem with them. But if all they did was change their taps, it'd be a good thing. But this part here, genius. All right, so as you already know, we run with the RV5 tent. That's been a great tent. We've had this for over 2 years now, and it's been going great. It's really comfortable. You saw in a previous video when we were at Kalgoa, I did a quick rundown on the tent, so I won't really talk any more about that. But basically this whole setup and everything you see here fits into the vehicle easily. Tent goes on the roof, stretchers go on the roof, ground sheets etc. go on the roof in their canvas bags. And we've got 2 of these army boxes on the floor here. That's everything with our kitchen in it. So everything we need, plates, cooking gear, utensils etc. are all in that green box. And then over here we've got what I call the setup box. So basically everything else is in there. This is just recovery gear in this bag here. But yeah, everything in this setup box is pretty much lights. I've got some welding gloves for carrying hot stuff, pegs, dork torches. I've got cables with Anderson plugs on the end of it, mallets, more pegs, ropes, fire lighters, rumby mug when we've got ice, some spare tools and barbecue utensils like cleaners and stuff, some multi-tools etc. And in the bottom we have more sand pegs etc. We've got a portable shower, we've got a 12-volt shower unit, and we've got the chainsaw for when we want to go get wood, and everything for the chainsaw, fuel etc. And just got some reef shoes and stuff in there, just generic stuff we might need. But basically everything in here can set up your camp, and you know, as far as like your camp cooking etc., everything in here you can get it all going. So that all conveniently packs away in this tub, so it stays packed. So whenever we want to go away, we just throw this in, and we know we've got like the bare essentials as tools, you know, fire lighting stuff, cooking stuff. Yeah, it's all waterproof so it can get wet, and you don't ever have a problem. So just these boxes are really great. They're about $200 each. I got them from an army disposals joint. They are ex-military cases, and they're bloody brilliant I reckon. And the kitchen one just locks in on top of that one, and just a light strap down, which ain't going to move anywhere. Alright, so when it comes to camp cooking, generally I like to cook on a campfire. Who doesn't? We got the Snow Peak fire pit, I guess you call it. That's a great accessory to have. This weekend we're using the charcoal, but you know, usually I would just, since buying the chainsaw, I would just go bush and go get some wood and have that. But we're not 100% sure on what the fire situation is, or the fire bans in Queensland at present. Over the last few months there's been total fire bans, but this is a really good option because obviously you've got your cooking surface here, but basically you throw your wood or your charcoal in there, you get it going, then you got your cooking grill here, and you got 3 different stages. So like to control how hot it is, you can move it up, move it down, etc. And you can basically cook anything on that. And the best thing about it, it's got this little base here, it's up off the ground, and you're not leaving a footprint. So you can basically set that up anywhere, and you know, not be scrutinised over whether or not you got a fire. Usually I'm pretty sure on Fraser Island, which they blanket no fires, like campfires, you can run one of these with your charcoal in it and it's no problem. So and that cooks your food just as good. So the best thing about it, it leaves no trace. So you know, you put your charcoal away, it burns down to nothing, and you throw it in a bin and you're all good to go, and you can't even tell you've had a campfire there. So this weekend it's bloody hot, so just the charcoal's pretty good. Later on we'll be doing some lamb and some sweet potato in here, so we might film that, we might not. But Snow Peak fire pit, they've got other versions of it. I think Tony just bought one, actually a Darchi one, or a Darchi, however you say it. Pretty much the same unit, probably half the price. But yeah, he's going to let us know what the quality's like, but this thing hasn't rusted. We've had it for over just about 12 months now, and it's cooked many meals. And yeah, this weekend's the first time we've had it out actually since Cape York. So alternatively, if you dead set can't have fires, you may have seen on my solo adventure trips, we've just bought the Hyperflame, and that's just your gas cooking, and that does a really good job. So yeah, we may pull that out later just to cook the potato maybe. We're just going to slice up some sweet potato and some chips, but that's a really good thing. As I said, it was on special, we couldn't go past it. It was more than half price. And mate Brendo had one, and yeah, it was really good, so we just couldn't go past it. So that's the secondary option, but 100% all the time, campfire or Snow Peak on charcoal. So yeah, that's our camp cooking. Right, so when it comes to lighting up your campsite in the dark, we go about it in a really less is more way. But these cheap little LED things, I think they're off eBay, or I think Supercenter sell them as well. They're only about $15 to $20. Just LED strip, we pin that up there. That pretty much lights up this whole front of the tent, and it's just running off the batteries in the back of the ute, and it's got a dimmer switch, etc. That's really good. Otherwise we just run our dork torches, and the lights I've already told you about on the vehicle, and basically our campsite at night is yeah, you can see what you're doing. Alright, so that's pretty much how we roll when both Michelle and I are away, and that's basically our full setup. As you can see, or as I've shown, it doesn't really take up much room. It's not very heavy, and it's very less is more, which is what I'm all about. And it works for us. It's quite comfortable. We lived like this for pretty much a month in Cape York, and over that month I think we set up, packed up like one night like 14 to 15 times, like consecutive nights. We packed up, moved, set up again, etc. And we got it down pat, and I think it only took us, as you see the tent here, like this tent's got a whole front room and everything you put on, which you might have seen in Fraser Island videos. We set the whole thing up. But I think when we're at Cape York, after you're doing it so often, I think we had this down pat. We were fully set up in about 15 minutes, the two of us working at it. So yeah, once you get it down pat, it's really easy, and everything, as I said, is in boxes. When you're at home, you just know you need to throw this and this and this and this and this in, and you're good to go. The only thing you really need to worry about is loading the fridge up. Everything else is ready to go all the time. So it's a really good way of operating, and yeah, it works for us quite well, and hopefully that's given someone some insights, if anyone. And yeah, if you take a less is more approach to your camp setup, then I think overall you'll be happier, because you'll be carrying less, won't take you as long to set up, and it won't really worry you if it's raining, night, day, whenever. You'll know you'll be able to set up in confidence and be comfortable anywhere you go. So yeah, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. The end.